Deion Sanders Jr. wasn't just tagging along. He was producing content, armed with well-off media's reach. He documented every step of Shedeur Sanders' Pro Bowl journey, from the luxury hotel entrance to the stage family moments. It was part football, part reality TV, and it worked. NFL fans couldn't stop watching, arguing, dissecting. Some saw an emerging star. Others saw a marketing ploy. If you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed. Either way, Shedeur was at the center of it all. For a rookie backup with one of the league's lowest passer ratings, that kind of media gravity is virtually unheard of. And yet, it may be exactly what the NFL is after. As mid-season events like the Pro Bowl lose relevance, players like Sanders offer the league something more enduring: engagement. By leaning into his digital fluency and allowing family-run media to shape the narrative, Shedeur didn't just show up. He redefined what it means to be visible. The Browns, watching closely, are now building their system around that presence, hoping it turns noise into leadership and leadership into wins. The NFL didn't just let Shedeur Sanders into Pro Bowl. They rolled out the carpet, stamped it with his name, and handed him the keys to the entire media machine. A fifth-round rookie, statistically underwhelming, an alternate, not a starter. But none of that stopped the league from treating him like royalty when he arrived in San Francisco. And that's exactly why the football world lost its collective mind. Because this wasn't business as usual. This was a very public, very flashy statement. The Pro Bowl is no longer just about stats. It's about status. And Shedeur, backed by name, narrative, and media-savvy branding, had it. It started before he even reached the field. At the airport, at the hotel, the cameras were already rolling. His brother, Deion Sanders Jr., had the whole thing covered for well-off media. Every moment, from his personalized welcome to the footage of his family settling into their accommodations, was documented and shared. This wasn't just a player showing up to represent his team. It was a high-production rollout for a carefully crafted brand. That level of visibility sparked immediate backlash. Fans questioned how a quarterback with a QBR of 18.9, one of the lowest among rookie passers, could be elevated to a stage that was once reserved for the best of the best. Analysts rattled off names of at least 20 other quarterbacks who posted better numbers. There were receipts. There were rants. There was outrage. But none of it stopped the show. Because while the numbers told one story, the NFL was playing a different game entirely. One based on cultural relevance, not just completion percentages. Shedeur's inclusion wasn't a mistake. It was a signal. His marketability, his ability to attract fan engagement, his visibility as Deion Sanders' son, his entire journey from HBCU to Colorado to Cleveland, all of it created the perfect storm. The NFL needs those storms right now. The Pro Bowl has been on life support for years. Viewership down, interest waning, top players skipping it entirely. Myles Garrett, one of the biggest names on Shedeur's own team, reportedly didn't even show. And why would he? For veterans with injury concerns and playoff priorities, a mid-season exhibition doesn't carry the same weight it once did. But Shedeur saw opportunity where others saw inconvenience. He didn't treat the Pro Bowl like a vacation. He treated it like a platform. And that's why the NFL treated him like a VIP. Not because of what he did on the field, but because of what he could do off it. He made the Pro Bowl watchable again, even if it was just to argue about him. That's what makes his inclusion so divisive. Critics say it dilutes the merit of the game. Defenders say it's time to expand the definition of merit. What Shedeur brings, engagement, relevance, digital fluency, and narrative control, is exactly what the league is prioritizing: a world where attention is everything. The Browns understood that, too. Their decision to hire Danny Breyer as pass game coordinator wasn't some minor coaching shuffle. It was a targeted move to support Shedeur's development. Breyer is known for optimizing passing concepts and simplifying reads. Exactly the kind of structure you want in place for a young quarterback who's being positioned as more than just a roster filler. This wasn't just about maximizing talent. It was about aligning institutional strategy with cultural capital. The Browns weren't just reacting to the Pro Bowl nod. They were confirming what that selection suggested. That Shedeur is a centerpiece. Maybe not statistically, Yet, but strategically, without question, they didn't wait for the internet to agree. They moved fast. They built around him. They bet big. And now that bet is playing out in front of the entire league. Because while fans argue over passer ratings and Pro Bowl purity, Shedeur continues to do what the modern quarterback is expected to do: command the moment. He was never passive, never overwhelmed. He didn't downplay the attention or awkwardly sidestep the discourse. He leaned in. He owned it. He represented the Browns with professionalism. He smiled for cameras, answered media questions, and stayed locked in throughout the week. He embraced the spotlight not as a distraction, but as a responsibility. That maturity, in the face of so much scrutiny, told the league he's not just media trained, he's media ready. That readiness is exactly what separates him from so many rookies in his position. Shedeur's entire trajectory has been built on proving people wrong, not with highlight reels, but with composure and consistency. At Jackson State, they said he'd never go pro. At Colorado, they said he wasn't ready for the jump. At the draft, they let him slide to the 5th round. And now, after a quiet rookie season, they said he didn't deserve the spotlight. Yet here he is, turning that spotlight into momentum. That's the part critics can't stand. Because in the traditional mindset, you earn everything with numbers, yards, touchdowns, ratings. But in the modern NFL, you also earn with narrative, with connection, with the ability to attract attention and elevate a brand, whether that brand is your own, your team's, or the league's. And Shedeur is already doing all three. His family didn't wait for legacy to happen. They built it. Well-off media wasn't a lucky break. It was part of the plan. They've been documenting, storytelling, and building a presence for years. The NFL didn't create the buzz. They just finally decided to ride the wave. That's what the Pro Bowl became this year. Not a reward, but a recalibration. A stage to showcase not just talent, but total value. And whether you think Shedeur deserved that stage or not, the fact is, you watched, you talked, you had an opinion. That's more than the Pro Bowl has gotten in years. And while you were debating it, Shedeur was delivering on what the NFL really wanted: relevance. Not just for him, but for an event that was rapidly fading into irrelevance. He didn't just show up. He transformed the energy. His critics say the league lowered the bar. But maybe the bar just moved. Maybe it's no longer just about who had the cleanest stat line. Maybe now it's about who makes the league impossible to ignore. Because Shedeur did. And now he walks away from the Pro Bowl not just with photos and interviews, but with momentum, with organizational support, with cultural resonance. And that's a win no spreadsheet can calculate. So what do you think? Was Shedeur's Pro Bowl moment a smart move or a marketing mess? Drop your take in the comments. Hit like if you've got strong opinions on how the league is evolving. And subscribe for more stories that keep shaking up the sports world. Because if this is the new NFL, Shedeur Sanders just became its blueprint. By the time Shedeur Sanders walked off that Pro Bowl field in San Francisco, the damage was done. Not to him. He looked calm, composed, even satisfied. The damage was to the illusion that the Pro Bowl was still a sacred space reserved strictly for statistical excellence. The whole operation had been exposed, and Shedeur had been at the center of it, not apologizing, thriving. Because when the NFL made that decision to treat a 5th-round rookie quarterback with a sub-20 QBR like a generational star, they weren't confused. They were just ahead of the curve. And that curve? It's bending fast toward brand-driven sports, like it or not. This wasn't about who deserved to be there. This was about who mattered. And Shedeur, with the Sanders name, the social reach, the built-in content machine, and the audacity to show up like he owned the place. That's who the NFL bet on. And they didn't just make space for him. They invested. From the moment he touched down in San Francisco, it was clear he wasn't being treated like a backup. He wasn't tucked into some quiet corner of the event. He was greeted like a headliner. Hotel staff ready. Family accommodation secured. Cameras rolling. His cameras, not the NFL's. Deion Sanders Jr. and well-off media had the entire event locked and loaded for digital distribution. This wasn't a courtesy invite. It was a full campaign. And it wasn't subtle. The NFL didn't try to hide the red carpet. They wanted you to see it. Because whether you were fuming about it or filming reaction videos, the one thing you weren't doing was ignoring it. And that's exactly what they needed. Let's not pretend this is just about Shedeur. This is about what the Pro Bowl has become and what the league is turning it into. The shift didn't happen overnight. It's been bubbling for years. Fewer stars attending, ratings declining, fans treating it like background noise. It wasn't working. So the NFL pivoted. They stopped trying to preserve prestige and started selling personality. And Shedeur was the first real test of that new strategy. Did it work? Depends who you ask. If you're a numbers purist, this whole saga was a nightmare. A rookie with modest stats, benefiting from a famous last name, jumping the line to headline an event meant for top-tier performers? It's a betrayal of the game. But if you're the NFL, if you're reading engagement reports, video shares, social traction, and overall buzz, then yes, it worked. Better than any Pro Bowl headline in years. And if you're the Browns, this wasn't just a headline. It was confirmation. Their decision to bring in pass game coordinator Danny Breyer wasn't for optics. It was real. It was infrastructure. It was a sign that Shedeur isn't being treated like a fill-in. He's being set up to lead. This is how franchises prepare for a new era. Quietly but purposefully. While everyone debated his Pro Bowl worthiness, Cleveland was getting to work, crafting an offense, simplifying reads, investing in the quarterback they believe can deliver, not just on the field, but for the brand. Because Shedeur is more than a quarterback. He's a media ecosystem. He walks with a camera not because he needs attention, but because he knows how to control it. He grew up in the spotlight. Being Deion Sanders' son doesn't just mean football knowledge. It means knowing exactly what the lights can do to a story. And this story, he owned it. He didn't just survive the Pro Bowl circus. He made it his. While other players treated it like a formality or skipped it entirely, he turned it into a marketing masterclass. He smiled, he played, he posted. He turned every piece of the moment into a strategic win. The cameras didn't find him. He brought the cameras. That confidence, that ease in the spotlight, that's what separates him from the average rookie. He's not learning how to be a public figure on the fly. He's been doing it for years. And now, with a growing team built around him, from his family to his franchise, he's being positioned as the future, not just of the Browns, but of the NFL's media forward model. And what makes it all so polarizing is that he hasn't even proven himself statistically yet. That's what has critics fuming. The fact that Shedeur is being treated like a franchise QB, a Pro Bowler, a future face of the league, without the resume to back it up. But that's the new formula. The resume doesn't start with numbers anymore. It starts with influence. And Shedeur's influence is undeniable. He made a Pro Bowl as a replacement into a cultural flashpoint. His name dominated headlines. Sports networks debated him. Fans argued about him online for days. The event became relevant again because of his involvement. The league got what it wanted. Attention. Even if that attention was full of complaints, disbelief, and think pieces. It was volume. It was relevance. And the NFL understands that attention spans are short, but controversies echo. So when Shedeur walked away from the Pro Bowl, he didn't just collect a few selfies and a game check. He walked away with more power, more leverage, a louder name, a more clearly defined brand. And he did it all while barely throwing a pass. That's why he's being treated differently. It's not about skipping steps. It's about changing the route. And what's even more telling, the veterans didn't push back. The stars who used to define the Pro Bowl with jaw-dropping stats and year-long consistency, many of them were just absent, some out of choice, some out of necessity. But none of them showed the kind of fire that Shedeur brought to an event that's supposed to be a celebration. That contrast is everything. It shows how the incentives have shifted. For elite veterans, the Pro Bowl is optional. For rising stars, it's a branding opportunity. For Shedeur, it was a statement. And it landed. Because while people argued about his QBR, he was giving interviews, shooting content, being the face of the Browns, even temporarily, and cementing his place in the conversation. The league is evolving fast, and Shedeur is one of the first rookies built for this new reality. Not just playing the game, but curating the story, managing the optics, controlling the narrative. And that's the power the modern quarterback needs. He's not the only one with talent, but he's one of the few who can turn talent into traction. That's the difference. That's why the NFL backed him. That's why Cleveland is building around him. And that's why fans, whether they like it or not, are going to keep hearing his name. Because this wasn't just about a Pro Bowl appearance. It was a signal that the playbook has changed. Shedeur Sanders didn't rewrite the NFL. He just read the new version out loud. At this point, if you're still clinging to the belief that the Pro Bowl is about honoring the best performers in football, Shedeur Sanders' entrance probably felt like a personal insult. The stats don't lie. He had an 18.9 QBR during his rookie season. That's not just underwhelming. That's barely registering. And yet, there he was in San Francisco, living like the Pro Bowl was his coronation. But maybe that's exactly the point. Because what's really rattled people isn't the selection itself. It's what the selection means. Shedeur didn't sneak into the Pro Bowl unnoticed. He arrived with full production value, a branded media package, and a camera crew, courtesy of well-off media, documenting every frame. From his luxurious hotel welcome to curated family moments, it looked less like a football event and more like a premiere. And the NFL, they didn't just allow it. They leaned into it. The message was clear. Performance is just one part of the story. Engagement is the rest. And Shedeur is engagement. He's not the best quarterback in the league. Not yet, but he's one of the most talked about. And in an era where attention is currency, that's worth more than a stat sheet. The NFL isn't oblivious to that reality. They're adapting to it. They didn't elevate Shedeur to reward excellence. They elevated him to revive relevance. Because let's be honest, the Pro Bowl was fading fast. Veteran players like Myles Garrett opting out, fans barely tuning in. The format shifting from tackle football to skill games and flag matchups. This wasn't the same high-stakes, star-studded event it used to be. So what do you do when prestige slips? You inject personality. Shedeur is that personality. He's not just the son of Deion Sanders. He's a product of that legacy. A player who knows how to exist in front of camera, who understands how to frame a moment, use social platforms, and tap into culture. When he stepped off that plane, the NFL wasn't just welcoming a player. They were co-signing a media figure. And that's what his people pressed. Because if you're still judging NFL accolades by stats alone, Shedeur's Pro Bowl moment reads like blasphemy. But if you're looking at the broader picture, audience retention, youth engagement, digital storytelling, then it makes perfect sense. He's not just a quarterback. He's a walking storyline. And right now, that's what sells. It's not hard to understand why this stings for traditionalists. The NFL's always claimed to be a meritocracy. Best man wins. Pro Bowl spots are earned, not gifted. That's what made it feel special. But Shedeur's inclusion forced a new truth to the surface. It's not just about merit anymore. It's about media metrics, about narrative, about who can pull a casual viewer in and make them care about a game that barely matters in the standings. And let's not pretend the Browns didn't notice a shift. Their move to hire Danny Breyer wasn't random. It was a direct response to the same thing the league saw. Shedeur isn't just a low-risk rookie to develop quietly in the background. He's someone they need to develop fast. Breyer's known for modernizing passing attacks, simplifying reads, and helping young quarterbacks find rhythm. It's the kind of hire you make when you're building around someone, not just hedging bets. So while the public debated his legitimacy, the Browns doubled down because in the NFL, narrative is leverage. And Shedeur has more leverage now than any other fifth-rounder in recent memory. That Pro Bowl invitation gave him something far more valuable than a jersey. It gave him proof of concept. It told the world and his franchise that even with lackluster stats, his impact stretches further. It stretches into homes that haven't watched the Pro Bowl in years. It stretches onto social media feeds that couldn't name 3 NFL quarterbacks, but know who Shedeur is. It stretches across age groups, demographics, and platforms, and makes the NFL feel just a little more current. And that's why this moment was never about one game. It's about what comes next. The Pro Bowl was just the first stage. The real test is what Shedeur does now, with the spotlight, with the investment, with the expectations. Because make no mistake, the target on his back just got bigger. You don't arrive at the Pro Bowl with a below-average season and not become the topic of every post-game panel next year. Everything he does moving forward will be measured more harshly. Every interception? See, told you didn't deserve it. Every mistake? This is why stats should matter more than followers. That's the tax of visibility. He gets the platform, but he also gets the pressure. And honestly, that's nothing new to him. Because Shedeur's whole football life has been a challenge to prove he's not just a name. At Jackson State, people questioned if he could even hang in college football. He silenced that. At Colorado, he became one of the most watched players in the country. Then came the draft where he fell to the 5th round. And once again, he's being asked to validate his place. And every time he responds the same way. He shows up. He doesn't flinch in front of the camera. He doesn't apologize for the spotlight. He understands how to carry both expectation and exposure. That's what sets him apart. It's not just talent. It's poise. And in this new NFL, poise in the media arena matters just as much as poise in the pocket. That's not to say he won't have to prove himself. He will, and fast, because attention fades. Flash burns out. Eventually, you have to back it up. But what Shedeur has, what the league and the Browns clearly see, is a unique ability to extend the life of a narrative, to keep people watching, to make them curious about what he'll do next. And in a league fighting for every second of viewer attention, that kind of magnetism is rare. So where does this all go? That depends on Shedeur now. The stage is his. The investments have been made. The spotlight isn't moving anytime soon. He's got a coach dedicated to his development, a franchise lining up around him, a league subtly reshaping itself in his image. The Pro Bowl wasn't a reward. It was a reveal that in the NFL's next chapter, stats might get you drafted, but story gets you celebrated. Drop your thoughts below. Are you buying into Shedeur's moment? Or do you think the league sold out tradition for a headline? Like this video if you were stunned, outraged, or even secretly impressed. And subscribe for more deep dives into the chaos, the culture, and the calculated moves that keep shaking up the sports world. Because this saga, it's far from over.